Welcome to your weekly dose of positive and uplifting news. My name is Pule Molibati and you are watching Stories Untold. We bring our show today from the heart of Westbury in Johannesburg, a town known for its high-rate crime as well as substance abuse. But within this community, there are individuals who are making a positive change. Today, we follow them and reveal the impact that they are making in this community. Let's begin our show with the story of Martin.
Westbury, a place that evokes a gloomy picture of violence.
The crowd is becoming stronger. They're moving closer, drawing closer.
Drugs, substance abuse, and unemployment. But little do people know that within this area there are people making sacrifices to make it a better place. From drugs, alcohol, and thieving to chef and photography teacher, this is Martin. He's an ex-convict and reformed drug and substance user. He's part of Westbury Youth Center, a place buried deep in the heart of this community and whose sole mission is to change lives. He was born and bred here.
We were a happy family. Back in 1991, our house burned down. But then, of course, I also knew that mom and dad had issues and they separated. And we went to my mom's sister, which is my aunt Sandra. I went to stay in Different with her for about 5 years.
But the comfort they had enjoyed while living with their aunt came to an abrupt end.
She lost a job, and of course, then we needed to move because it became, like, in a way, crowded. 7th of January, moved in to a children's home in Balfour Park, Lindest, called Villa Lubet Kinderdorp, which that time was, I think, the second biggest one in South Africa. So they had like approximately between 230 to 250 kids staying there. They had 20 different homes. The place was so strict and guided, that made us young men and young women, they built us, So I remember some kids went out every second weekend to different families in hopes to be adopted, Okay, we didn't get that chance because we're still fresh into the system.
But as fate would have it, Martin found himself on the move again.
Government came down and wanted to close it and to make this place a baby center. The babies that was abandoned by their parents, the HIV-infected babies that was abandoned by their parents. So the government made this huge plan to house the kids in that Villa Lubet Kinderdorp. And then I had to leave the home because we got call from our aunt. Aunt got the feedback on, she got back in life again, and she requested that we can come stay there by her, and that's when I went to her.
Martin could finally breathe a sigh of relief as things seemed to be looking up for him, but not for long.
Fast forward after matric, I think 2010, I got a job at a bank, and I won't mention the bank, but I got a job at the bank, and it was the very same year I was introduced into, or rather I started drinking and using drugs. So I was working for 2 years for the bank, and I stole money. So I got caught, and I was sentenced to 2 years imprisonment for that. And I think there's 2 times in my life where some major decisions I had to make, or I'd rather say change my life. One was moving into Villa Lubet, and the second one was crazy, but it's to go to prison. And I think that's where the adult life for me really began, because in prison it was scary. It was my first time in prison. You always be like, what's gonna happen?
This was in Sun City. He was later transferred to Mpumalanga, and the time spent there was the turning point for him.
For some reason I picked up the Bible, and I think that was the moment where my life changed. There was a scripture somewhere in John, and it says, where Jesus asked David, "Do you love me?" 3 times. And if you love me, feed my flock. To me, that was like a million light bulbs that just went off at the back of my head. Feed your flock, that meant for me, because it was, I can't describe this, but it was a clear voice, meant just for me, but I can't describe that voice.
After spending 2 years in prison, he was finally released. This was the beginning of a new chapter in his life.
I didn't have a place to stay, and I stayed on the streets for I think 9 days or so. And I met the gentleman again in the parole office, and I was like, dude, I'm back now. And you could see I'm dirty, and and he bought me brown bread and avocado. So he was like, Martin, you're no longer juvenile. I'm gonna take you to a place, it's called the Halfway House. And it took me a couple of days to settle in, etc., etc. But I also could pick up there's no one cooking in the house. And because I have experience of cooking, I started cooking. And that's how I got a bit of a salary. So I started doing that, and that started, in a way, giving me a bit of a little bit of push in life. But in the back of my mind, feed my flock was still the thing that bothered me night and day.
Now both a photography teacher and chef, he deems this his purpose.
So I'm a photographer, that's my profession and my business. So coming to how I got into photography was, we were singing candle by candlelights here at the center. So I was a year in the center already, and we had a Christmas party, and so we made popcorn and party packs for the kids and invited the whole community to come here. And it was a friend of mine who's my best man next year, by the way. His name is Garrett Solomons. He had a camera in his hand. I'm like, dude, what's that, And I was like, no, you want to take a picture? And I took my very first picture of the sunset, and wow, that's when I was like, this is what I want to do. And then I made a deal with Dr. Bean Robinson. He saw me cooking in the kitchen, he saw me doing something at the community youth center, which we are now at, and he made a deal with me. Like, Martin, you can move here in free of charge. All you need to do is you need to cook for a matriculant. And that's how I am here now for the past 4 years. And when I speak about feed your flock, I think that became my purpose, because I declined many jobs from different organizations, that their vision and my purpose are not aligned.
He turned his purpose into passion.
That is the main reason why I'm here, because so I tested this. I'm like, okay, cool, if this is really what I must do, feed Jesus, God's flock, in any which way I possibly can, let me test it. So I cooked for the matrics in 2016, I mentored them, we have a whole committee, so we mentored these kids. We instilled things in their lives, and believe it or not, for the first time in 25 years, that year, this school got the biggest pass rate for a current school in South Africa. And those kids, seeing them now, 3 years later, some of them got their own big homes, they are married, they have cars, and they are a different human being. They've broken the cycle of poverty, they've broken the cycle of hopelessness in this community. And that was my proof that it was meant for me, feed your flock.
He has since written an article about his drug past on Facebook titled, "Thank God I Was a Drug Addict."
You need to see that again. I literally feel like a kid in a candy store.
From celebrities, politicians, we get to mingle with the who's who of Johannesburg.
Part of the Duzi to Sunny experience brings you here to the highest part in Africa, and you get to see these rolling hills that are behind me.
As Trends Travel, we travel far and wide to find you hidden gems.
Welcome back to Stories Untold. We bring our show to you from Westbury in Johannesburg. The Westbury Youth Community Centre has become a safe haven for individuals who strive for a better life.
Walking through the streets of Westbury is Reggie. He's the man at the helm of the Westbury Youth Centre, aimed in improving the livelihood in this community.
I was born in a very small town in the northwest called Lichtenburg, right? And very much forced to come to Johannesburg because we didn't have high schools, you know, for people of this color back then, right? And this kind of setup was the only space for us. Like we moved into hostels, right? So I moved to a place called Coronationville Hostel. I studied education, finished my education, and lo and behold, I ended up in a community called Westbury. This is where I started my teaching career.
The students he taught later became beggars in the streets, and that evoked something in him.
For me, Westbury almost kind of mirrored the community that I came from. I think a personal decision also to try and give back to the community that educated me, right? It lasted for 12 years, and then I jumped ship. I started working at the corporate NPO in Rosebank for about 6-7 years, where I learned the trade. And I'll tell you what motivated me. Because I used to bump into a lot of my students in Melville, where I was hanging out socially. And these kids were begging on the streets. And then I realized there's a big gap. You know, for me, like the influence that I had in their lives probably wasn't enough. And after 6 years of learning the trade, it was an intentional decision for me to learn how to do the work that I'm doing now. So for 6-7 years, I moved from being at the bottom of the barrel in that organization to almost being at the top. And then I jumped. I jumped without any safety. I jumped and then I started the Westbury Youth Centre that eventually started the organization called Mesh Up. Because then I felt my level of influence was a lot bigger than 4 walls in a primary school.
He partnered with the Westbury Secondary Principal and opened the centre.
And if you're looking at when there's riots happening, right, one person making a small fire versus, you know, the whole Ria Vaya being burnt off, it's a collective effort. So we try to use positive influence and energy to get a lot of energies into the youth centre to collectively impact this community.
The main focus of this was also to help the high school teachers.
So if you look at the tenants that we've had over the years, we have Senka that is on the premises, we have FEMSA. So the one deals with substance abuse, the one deals with family trauma, etc., etc. Those are the 2 major issues we have in this community. So the idea was always to bring the services closer to the school, so to allow teachers to teach and not deal with issues that can go on for hours, and allow principals to principal, for lack of a better word, right? So essentially what we're trying to do is to take those issues away from the school into the center, right? So that education can continue.
They were fortunate enough to receive support.
So I think that the one challenge that we didn't have was the one of resources, because I think we were very lucky when we started the project. We were kind of blessed in that sense, right? We had a few things lined up for us that just worked out. One was the space. We had those beautiful space that we could transform, and the other one we had a little bit of money to pay for people to be there.
Even though that may have been the case, there were personal sacrifices that needed to be made along the way.
You have to give up a lot to be able to take on this journey. And it's a journey that cannot always be, it's easy to explain it to the guy in the street, but if you have like a daughter that requires a lot more resources, it becomes a little bit complicated. You know, when you move out of education, right, you move out of a very safe space of, you know, getting your pension when you're done and sorted, and then you move into a corporate NPO space. You also move into a space where you can earn a lot more money, but there's a lot of safety aspects around it.
The centre is a combination of services.
We have a variety of programs, what we call a basket of services. The main one is, of course, our advice and referral package, right, where anybody can walk in and ask for anything. We cannot assist you. We will direct you into a direction it can. Then we have a skills development program, end user computer program, We have a baking program. There's a lot of boys in there, surprisingly. We have a media program, which is also our storytelling vehicle, where we're trying to change the narrative of the negative publicity that we're getting in our community. They get taught photography, videography, blogging, and a little bit of radio. We have an agricultural project where we teach them to use and connect with the soil. There's a lady that's doing voice training to help mostly women find their voice, because when they find their voice, they become confident, they can speak out, but they can also go and apply for jobs.
And he praises its growth and progress.
So what we're essentially offering is hope, right? Is a belief to find themselves, right? Because that is very often the problem that we have with young people. They don't find themselves until it's either too late. Some of them don't ever find themselves. So what we try and do is to spark that little conversation in their heads to say, dude, you are something. You are worth something. Young lady, you can become somebody awesome. Young boy, you do not have to have a gun in your hand to be respected.
Known as Auntie in this community, we talk to the woman the center considers a mother figure. This week on Health Talk.
So sleep is said to be a vital part of our life. Some people spend long hours sleeping while some only sleep for a shorter time.
This is a biological function. You need to understand this. It's not man-made that you have to sleep when the sun sets and get up when the sun rises.
I would wake up so tired that I can't even cope in the morning.
Insomnia is caused by stress. It varies on what kind of stress it is.
Every Saturday at 9 a.m.
The SABC News mobile app is your one-stop digital portal to all the news you need. Stay connected with the latest in breaking news. Watch the SABC News channel along with clips and live streams of all the big news events. And listen to all the SABC News radio stations live, including podcasts and much more. Simply download the SABC News app to your Android or iOS device from either the Play Store or the App Store. SABC News, independent, impartial.
Welcome back. This is the last and final leg of Stories Untold. Remember, we are bringing a show from Westbury in Johannesburg. We are following individuals who are making a positive change within this community. The Youth Community Center has become a safe haven where people go to for a sense of belonging or sometimes just looking for a home. Now we find out what else the center does for the youth of this community. Let's cross over there.
Also uplifting the community through the Westbury Youth Center is Bridget. Reggie may be the founder of the organization, but every home needs the warmth of a mother, and Bridget personifies that. She's known as Auntie in this community and a mother figure in the center.
Walking in the dusty streets of Westbury many years ago, it was a safe place actually. I grew up as a foster child in Ruben Street, Nuclear. So now in Westbury now it's a bit of a different era because of the drugs problems that we have, the teenage problems that we have.
Her childhood in foster care molded her into an empathetic natural.
As a foster child, I always in my memory I told myself I don't like children crying. So I need to stay in the children's world. I worked at Child Welfare Society, I worked in children's homes, I worked in children on waiting trial. So all my life I was part and parcel. My journey was children. I walked in this place, chaos. You smelled the dust, you smelled the paint, there was no blinds, it was still, it was not okay. And I looked at this place, I said, what am I doing here? So she showed me the office. I walked in that office and like Auntie Brie, I'm very structured. And I said, okay, what now? And I started my office.
Eventually, she met Reggie, who was as passionate about tackling the social issues in this community as she was.
From FEMS, I started at the Westbury Youth Centre, met this wonderful youth. You know, they were so hungry for community development. And as a community developer, I said, I need to catch these children. I need to walk the path with them. And we started at all the schools doing programs like child abuse programs, bullying programs. We started there. And when I started at the Westbury Youth Centre, everything changed. It was like my mindset changed to say, this is where I am supposed to be. This is where God wanted me to be. It's very subtly, I took over the role as a mom. You know, I kept them busy. I kept them as, you are my chickens, I am your hen.
Like a mother hen, she's witnessed the impact the center has.
We replaced the guns with all our skills development. We replaced the guns with computers. We replaced the guns with life skills. So we don't, if anyone walks into my space at the Westbury Youth Centre, I don't look at the negative. If you're a drug addict and you're under the influence of drug, I don't see the drugs. I see the person.
Every year, Auntie Bridget leaves her home to nurse the matrics in the center.
So the matric program is very, very interesting program, where the matrics move in if they write exams, and I move in as a house mother. This is just making my heart feel so good. That is my passion. That's who I am. Working with children all my life, and to see that these children makes an impact on their own lives and make an impact in the community, because that's what the program is all about.
As part of uplifting the community, Bridget and these young ladies through the Westbury support group also assist the old and frail. Today they visit Auntie June, who still lives with the effects of the stroke she had 2 years ago, making sure she's bathed, fed and has her medicine. This is their routine.
When I stand up, you know, just in the rightness is just here. It's where I felt good. And I went out. You know, that almost stand 208. There by the door. There I felt the family were lying there on the floor. And in the corner, there in the corner. There they found me lying. Helpless. I can't move. But she screaming, help, I guess the star break. The star break. I'm already broken body. They just screaming what came from me. Sisters. They have my sister with me. There's no money coming in. I don't find money in the house. He's helping.
She expresses gratitude for the help she receives from the ladies at the center.
Let me feel alright, Marcus. Let me feel alright, Marcus.
And she has nothing but good wishes for them.
God you bless them, my sweetie pie. God you bless them, Marcus. God you bless them with my money. And giving them something in their hands. And bless them with money. See how they still helping me in the house. Yeah, Marcus. That's all I can say to them.
Through their hard work and dedication, there's a noticeable change in the upliftment of this community, and the center hopes to continue with this good work into the future.
I love for this, you know. So I think the big thing for me, there's a bigger dream. The bigger dream is to do it on a bigger scale with many different organizations. I mean, if you look at our country, it's so divided. People are living on an island, you know, and I'm not saying we're the best center in the world. Of course, we have our mistakes, but what I'm saying is when we do come together and we do this on a large scale, definitely there's hope, and we can at least attempt to do something.
We are there where we're supposed to be. Sustainability is always an issue. Any NPO, there's always an issue around sustainability, right? And making sure that the projects and the services can continue beyond, and as I always said, that will become a landmark for years to come.
And with that, we end our show here for today. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, if you missed any of our stories, you can find it online using the hashtag Stories Untold SABC. Alternatively, go onto the SABC YouTube channel. Thank you once again. My name is Pule Molobatsi. It's a goodbye from us here on the show.